Oy. Shalom Ezra. Can't hear you, Ezra.
No, there was another number that he gave, the 111-258-988. That didn't work, so I don't know. I went on one from last week, a link that he sent last week with the shear.
Right.
That one came on. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that came on.
Yeah, I was on the phone now with the pharmacy. They're starting to run low on gloves, on latex gloves. So Amazon is selling it for a crazy amount of money. As I managed to get my mother's pharmacy, he had a few boxes left, so I was able to get them shipped over there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right, if you're Stasel Chaka, have some extra gloves.
Yeah, so we're Baruch Hashem, so now we're good.
Okay.
Oh, we get the different price.
The next couple of simonim, we're only going to go quickly through the Mechaber and the Ramah, partly because we need to get to some of the things that are more practical, and besides the fact that that the essence of the halachas are well stated within the Ramah and within the Ramah and the Mechaber, so we will better sometime in the future come back and learn the Mishnahs on these simonim. But we're really going to make some, as they say in French, with the hype feast.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to move along. Okay. I don't know if anybody's on, but we are. Okay. So we're at Simon Tov Mem Daled.
Okay.
Okay. Simon Tov Mem Daled. Din Erev Pesach Chaliyos Shabbos. So this is a case when Shabbos is Erev Pesach. So that's why we're going to go through this pretty quickly. So Sif Aleph Yadal Chaliyos Shabbos, when the 14th day, when Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos. Another Pesach is Sunday, Monday. Baitkin Leil Yud Gimel. So the night before. This is already a day earlier than the regular do, which would be Thursday night. Umavarim hakol lefnei Shabbos, and you burn all the chametz before Shabbos. Umashayrin mustn't be so all you leave over is just enough food for the two meals for Shabbos. The tzarcha Shabbos. The suda shlishis zman achar mincha, because you can't have the third suda shalashidus on Erev Pesach you can't have anyway because but you can't eat matzah and you can't eat chametz. You can't eat matzah because it's already Erev Pesach after the Zman. And chametz you can't because it's after Erev Pesach after the Zman. Ella, b'matzah shira, we could do b'matzah shira, as we would call it probably egg matzah, that type of stuff. However, you have to eat shalashid earlier because they don't want to spoil the appetite for eating matzah at the Seder. Haggadah, the Ramah adds to this, which is a little bit to help us match our minhagim. We don't eat, the matzah shir. Matzah is made with made pears. We only give for chayle. The basis of so therefore, what you can't suda Mine Paris, then you can be able to sell students without on other things, other types of food. You don't have to wash, you don't have to have a mitzvah, you don't have to have bezoinus. You can be able to sell students with fruit and meats or fish. Just 1 second, I need to get my magnifier. Okay. That makes it a little easier for me to see.
Mhm.
Okay. Sid base. So therefore you're talking about this type of case where you're really doing beer chametz on the day before Pesach, on the 13th of Nisan. So you have to do you still should do the beer chametz kaidem chatzos kadesh litais b'shar shanim. So you have to do like you do every other year, even though it's a day early, but still you don't want to do it any different because otherwise you make a mistake the next year. But still, when it comes Shabbos in the morning, we should be mevatel it. We should mevatel chametz, even though you got rid of all the chametz on Friday. Gimel, and mevatel in the Shabbos. That's for the kegel. You don't kegel kiyotzeber. It's a grain product. Ain't oisin by like pas sunuma b'kaira, and you don't make a loaf of bread in the in pot in a we would call it Dutch oven in a pot because it gets stuck to the pot. Hagos the Rama says im over bishol. Let's say a person did cook a lakshin kegel or he made a bread on top of the stove. And now the food, the chametz, is stuck to the walls of the pot. The efshel and it can't because it's already going to be Shabbos. He's not going to be able to really get to scrub it clean. So we should do so. Wash it a little bit. You can on Shabbos. You could wash it a little bit just to get rid of the chametz, and then of course you have to mevatel it. Siv daled. So that Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach, once you eat this side of the Suda in the morning, you should check out the tablecloth, you should wipe off the plates from any residue of the food with its fingers, and you should hide them away so you shouldn't see them. Together with the rest of the chametz kelim. Let's say some challah is left over. You can give it away to a guy. That the guy should take it out of the house. Then you can give him. You can say, it's yours. It belongs to you. I made a kinyan. I give it to you. And you give him a little bit. You give him a little bit extra to take this challah out. In the last time we had it, was a number of years ago. Happens, I don't remember what the frequencies. I have to look at the calendar, but it happens at least once in 19 years. So
Yeah.
You all the chametz and flushed it down the toilet. You left whatever was left. You had exactly enough chametz, but whatever left was flushed down the toilet. We're going to get to that later. Anyway, hey, sif hey, im nisha chametz acher she'achlu. Any chametz that's left over after you got done eating the Shabbos meal, mevatlei. If you had any kid, the chametz states, then you cover it over on Matzah Yantiv. Then tell you with Matzah Yantiv, and then you burn it then during Chalamoid. Vav.
Chalamoid or Matzah Yantiv?
What?
On Chalamoid or Matzah Yantiv?
No Chalamoid.
So even though you can burn chametz on Chalamoid.
You can burn it. You have to burn it. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. We're going to get to this. We're going to say that there's one opinion that says you can even burn it on the second day Yom Tov.
Wow.
And even though there is no chametz left in the house after you're done with the Shabbos meal, you have to do the same thing like you do every year. You have to make sure you follow the protocol of every year, even though you've gotten rid of all the chametz, and even though you were mevatel, the chametz was mevatel any ownership before Shabbos. But you still should do a bittul even on Shabbos. You can be mafker even on Shabbos. But let's say a person on the 14th Erev Pesach has to go to a mitzvah going. To do a bris or lechol suda serison that he was invited to a bar. The base chamav in his father-in-law's house, so he already left his house. And then he remembered that he left over chametz in his own house. If he can still has time in which he has to go, he can go back home and get rid of the chametz and then still go to the bris, etc. So that's what he should do. Bim lav. Let's say he can't. If he goes back home, he's going to miss the students. If I learn about it, he can do bittul. Let's say there was a fire. There was a fire, and the person went to save things from the fire. Or from a building that had just collapsed. Umiyad, honest, or any other type of sudden events. So there could be mevatel. So a person sees a fire and he's running to help other people. And this would apply if you relate to hatzola, right? They're running to an emergency, and they were left over chametz at home. He should mevatel and should not go back. Afilu, yeah, sure. Even if there's time theoretically to get back home. But if he's going for on your personal need, for one's own comfort, he has to go back home and get rid of the chametz. Ad kama hu chayzer. How much chametz does it have to be there in order that the person should stop and return home? Ad kebeh. It has to be at least the size of an egg. If it's less than the size of an egg, he's left over some small little amounts of chametz. Doesn't have to go back. That's a person left over. He has to leave the house for some special reason, but there was a dough sitting at home. And he's got caught up in any one of these other things that he got caught up in. And he's afraid that the dough that he left at home, which he was originally going to bake matzahs with, maybe because he got to, it will become chametz. So she immediately be mevatlet before the zman that it would become chametz. But if it already was the time that the dough would have turned to chametz, ain't a bittul moil, then bittul doesn't help. If it's after zman isser, because it's real chametz and the isser, the bittul doesn't help after zman isser. Okay. So these are the last halacha is a little bit more practical because it would apply to situations that we have that we will have to have on before Pesach where there's emergencies taking place, and there might be chametz that was over. If that happens, then you have to know the bittul help, and if you find any chametz afterwards, so then will have to be burned on Chol Hamoed. Taf mem hey. Then bir chametz. The halachas how to do bir chametz. By gimel sifim. Ketzir bir chametz. What's the ways you can do bir chametz? One is sarfai, you should burn it. Or you can crumble it up and cast it to the wind. Or zarker liyan, or throw it into the ocean. And by the way, there's one of the questions right now is since the laws about social gathering are pretty strong. There are those who say that you shouldn't bother doing bir chametz on the corners where the people we usually do.
Mm.
So I already got an advertisement for somebody who's will go around and pick up your chametz and will arrange for it to be burned.
Okay.
You can make a business out of everything.
Well, okay. Let's go old-fashioned capitalism.
But otherwise, the simple answer for us would be to take the chametz Erev Pesach and run down to Sheepshead Bay and throw it into the bay.
Why can't we just flush it into the toilet?
Oh, you could flush it into the toilet.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, Stam, I'm just saying if it's all by myself, I can make a little fire in the backyard. Is that?
Yeah. I think they're worried about the social.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because in the past years, all the kids run around to the bunch of kids hanging around by the fires and.
Yeah.
And that they're worried about that. So
sure, that's understandable.
Yeah. V'im haya chametz asha. Let's say it's really hard for chametz, as some people have put away. Some of it put away the challah from the bakings that the wives were baking. The challah, they didn't get rid of it. Ve'ena yom echad, ve'ena yom echad, right? So if you throw it into the ocean, it will not disintegrate. And you have to crumble it up. And then you throw it into the ocean. You can't throw in the solid piece of chametz. We would have to break it into crumbs. Hagava minig l'sarfa, but the Ramah says our minig is to burn it. One of the reasons why we do it because we want to remember the halachas of noiser. What happens when a carbon is left over past the zman iser? Because the noiser was always burned the next morning during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So the person wants to burn the chametz right at night right after they did the chametz. Hashus biyadi, you have to do it. You don't have to wait till the morning. It's important halacha. Remember, maybe this year it does pay. If you want to burn it, you can burn it right after B'dikas Chametz. Let me just see what the Mishnah Berurah said. Let's look at it.
As opposed to at night, as opposed to during the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he says you can burn it. You can burn it at night. Just like if somebody else the Mishnah Berurah says it's just like if you want to take a look at the Ches, Mishnah Berurah Simcha Ches biyadai, you have the permission. You can burn it at night. That's the fall. Right, the zman for biyur chametz. Because the whole mechiyah of biyur starts taking place 30 days before Pesach. So there's no question that you could burn it. We could burn the chametz. You could burn the chametz at night after b'dikas chametz. I still don't know if it's advisable to do it, but maybe present a viable alternative to the ban on public burning of chametz. Because the last several years, the Hamidiya and FJJ would have posted public places for burning chametz, and they definitely do not want to do that this year. And given the tenacity of some of the people in our community, would probably want to do it anyway, so they're not so worried about social gatherings, social distancing. All right. Sif Beis. However, you take this chametz and give it to a guy before the 6th hour, and you don't have to burn it. And if you happen to be burning it earlier or before the 6th hour, you could even get a benefit. You can have a pleasure, warmth from the fire. Because once it's already coals, it's no longer called food. So therefore, once it's been burnt, you're allowed to even have benefit during Pesach. That's if you burned it before the 6th hour. But if you didn't burn until at the 6th hour, at that point it's already asana. You can't use the coals that come from the burnt chametz. You can't use it to heat or to cook with. And you shouldn't cook with it. And the halacha is that if you cook from it's a whole if you cook food from wood, etc., that's asur, such as avodah zarah, right? So then the food itself becomes asur. Same thing with chametz. And that tafshil, that food is now asur b'no. So therefore, the coals from that food that was burnt is also asur b'no. Because he waited to burn it too late. He waited to burn it after the 6th hour. So we're always makbid to burn it earlier, so that's not a real problem. But there were times when burning chametz wasn't always so easy. Sif Gimel. If it's before the Zman Isser, you can throw it out to where the crows are. Let's see if I saw the chametz was still left over there, that the crows didn't eat it. Even though it's in public place where it's hefker, you shouldn't leave the chametz there. You have to burn it. Yisref hakli shalach lebedika kedei shelo yishkach chayvas beer. Let's say you had a box of chametz that you put inside the 10 pieces of bread to a bird, and a bird got to it, and all you're left with is the box. Burn the box like you burn it every year, even if there's no chametz inside of it. So you shouldn't forget that the chiyuv is to burn the chametz. Mario, I guess we'll have to wait to hear what the public safety advisors are going to tell us about burning chametz erev Pesach. Tov Mem Vav. We're going to keep on moving along till the next sim, because next sim is more relevant. More relevant, more practical. Tov Mem Vav. If you find that you had chametz during Yom Tov, by Dal Sifim. So Sif Aleph, a person on Yom Tov finds that he has some chametz, he didn't realize it. If it's during Chol Hamoed, so you take it out and burn it. But if it's still Yontiv, Keli, cover it over with a Keli, add a light until night, and then you should burn it, Matzi Yontiv. There are more adds on this. Because the chametz is muktzah, right? It's something you're not allowed to have an from, and you're not allowed to, and if it's food, even though it's food, you're not allowed to touch it anymore because it's also banah. So therefore, the food becomes chametz, it becomes muktzah. The gamma sarvim kaimer asura, and even where it is exactly in this place, you're not allowed to burn it. You have to take it out of your house, take it away from this place where it was, and burn it after Chol Hamoed. Siv Beis. Yesh Misha Ahmed Yontiv Sheni Dina Kechol Hamoed. Then he says there is an opinion that says that you're allowed to burn it on the second day of Yontiv. That has the same halacha as Chol Hamoed, because since the second day is only Drabanan, and the chametz is daraisa, right? So some of the opinions said you'd be allowed to burn it even on the second day of Yom Tov. Seif Gimel. Gago shall any Yehudi shall Yisrael the Gago shall Yisrael. And if you take a look at they're still even in the Middle East, they had houses in which the roofs were connected to each other. They're flat roofs, and the roofs were connected to each other. So if you have a rooftop which is right next to the rooftop of a guy, and the guy's chametz rolled over into the Jew's roof, you can push it away with a stick. But if Shabbos Yontiv where it's muktzah, so therefore you cover it over with a kli. To also the taltal of Shabbos, because chametz, even if it's not your chametz, you're not allowed to touch it, because since there's no use for it, it becomes completely usher to touch. Siv Daled. Matzah pas b'Pesach b'Pesach. If you happen to find, you found bread in your house on Pesach, right? The kids were playing and they hid away a roll, which we've had. But you don't know if this was a chametz sticker roll, or was matzah kosher Pesach. Mutter afilu b'achil you're allowed to use, you're still allowed to eat it. Tazlina basar basar, because we present premises. Whatever I have now is Pesachtik. If I find something that looks like we don't usually use matzah, but that's chametz. But if let's say you found a piece of matzah, you found a piece of machine matzah in your house, you don't remember if it's chametz or Pesachtik matzah. You're allowed to rely that you got rid of all the chametz matzah. Let's say it's really moldy. It's old. It's so old, moldy that there's no question that it couldn't have been this moldy and still come from after Pesach currently. And then you have to presume that it's definitely considered chametz. However, if the mold on it is something that can tell that it still looks, or this piece of matzah, piece of chametz, or looks like chametz, is fresh enough so that even if there's mold on it, it could have happened just in the last couple of days. If we normally keep on baking fresh bread, or they bake fresh matzah-like bread. So you can rely, even if it has a lot of mold. Because we can rely on the lemer b'choyim afa pascham v'nosno Allah v'lefikach bar l'safish. So we don't have this problem because we don't make lafa. But among the Sephardic communities where they used to bake thick and flexible matzahs, this halacha might have been. We couldn't tell. Is it the pre-Pesach, after Pesach? Just a little anecdote. I was talking to my sister in Eretz Yisrael, and she said that they went out to the grocery store, and they found some cakes that were already labeled Nefa la'achar Pesach. Right? Even though it's 2 weeks before Pesach, it already was stamped. This was baked before Pesach. Just again, commercial interests override halacha. Okay, now the next siman we're going to learn the Mechaber and the Ramah straight through, and then Bez Hashem tomorrow we'll go into the Mishnah Berurah, because this is already things that happen, especially products where we're not sure. We're putting away products this year that we normally wouldn't put away. Din taruvas chametz b'Pesach Pesach. If you find something that has mixtures of chametz in it on Pesach, boyid ba'al sifim. So sif aleph. Chametz b'Pesach oiset harusai ben b'minay ben shleim b'minay. This we had this halacha where the Mishnah Berurah gave us the summary before, but this is where the ikar halacha is found. That if the mixture, anything has a mixture of chametz, it doesn't make a difference if it's a grain product that it's mixed with, or it's not a grain product that's mixed with. It's still asur b'mashu. It's still asur even if it's a drop. Afilu ma'ano, and you're not allowed to even have a side benefit from it. Haggadah Ramah adds this: you have to burn the whole thing. And you can't say, listen, I'll take off the value of the chametz that's in this mixture and I'll burn that or I'll get rid of it. But I'll sell the rest to a guy. Once it's taruvas or chametz on Pesach, it's also the whole mixture. Mordechai Perakam is Pesachim, or Piskei Marai, Siemens Kapsal, Chubas Marai Brin. Miu, however, Kalim Shins Bashal, but if it's Kalim that this mixture was cooked in, Mutar Nachar Pesach, you're allowed to keep the Keli till after Pesach. In Tzorach Shvir Hagal, you don't have to break the Keli or do a Hagal on it, because since it was a mixture, and the mixture was, as we talked about the other day, is it was less than 1/60th, or it was not, the chametz itself was not significant. So then the keli itself is not considered asur b'hana, but the mixture is. V'din taruvas v'kedin shar taruvas, because the halachas of mixtures for chametz on Pesach is like the mixture of anything that's asur. The only difference is quantity. Throughout the rest of the year, if say some mixture, something that was treif got mixed into a pot, so then you can measure if there was 1/60th to the contents of the pot. But on Pesach, you can't do that because the Isra is b'mashu, even on a little drop. But let's say it's the type of thing where it's such like a piece of meat, something that is solid. That normally, if something that's solid comes into contact with something that's treif, so you can cut away that place where it touched. That's called klipa. You can cut away the klipa, and cut away the surface of it. So if during the rest of the year, where something also touches something that's mutter, so it's enough ela klipa, oina tilas malkam, or you cut away a part that part where it touched. After chametz came, so you can do the same thing with chametz. Like in any other type of isser, even if it's two things that are warm. You found there was a treif piece of meat next to a kosher piece of meat, and they touched each other. Even if they're warm, you can still cut away the place that they touched. And that's the same thing on every Isser and same thing on Pesach. The same thing will happen if you have a matzah that's kosher l'Pesach together with a matzah that's chametz stick, and even if they're both warm, and there is nothing that really connects them. There is no moisture that connects them. Aser, ella mokaim magoy bavad. So the only thing that's aser is when it touches. Because it doesn't absorb any more than the touch. Haga ubedin regel, going the halacha of that the fragrance, the steam off of a hot object is considered to be is the substantial. So the Indian tavshil sheyesh b'chametz imshar tamavshil yesh makilim. But so since there's a whole issue about is the steam of a treif object, does that make the kosher object treif? And the halacha is that normally we don't really, we're only machmer with this place to be makel. So for chametz on Pesach, how much of the chametz, the steam off of the chametz sticker product is going to affect the Pesach sticker products? That it's not significant, and you can be makel. Yesh machmirin, don't say that on Pesach. Even that steam is also considered to be substantial enough to cause it to us, to Isser. That's how goes smart with the Teshuvos Davar Dezor. That's what we're talking about when you have steam coming off of a tray for a chomistic object. And it only applies where normally when we talk about treif versus kosher, if the steam is not considered significant, so then there are those who are mekel and there are those who are machmer, but you have the right to be mekel. So this seems to be not such a relevant halacha. I just want to tell you, we're going to get to it later. When we bake matzahs on Erev Pesach, now the halacha is that when you bake matzahs, if let's say a matzah gets folded up in the oven, right? So that fold gets folded over, now makes pasels the matzah because it's nefucha, it gets a bubble in there, and it becomes immediately chometz. Okay. So normally when you bake matzahs, if that happens, it's not such a problem because it's before Pesach. But Erev Pesach dika matzahs, on Erev Pesach, we're baking, normally Bez Hashem we should bake, but normally we're baking sheish shoras l'mala, we're starting to bake in the afternoon, it's zman iser chometz. So if one matzah overlaps another matzah, or one matzah is folded, you have to make sure it doesn't touch another matzah. So we have this we say the way that we call it, we say we take no captives on Erev Pesach. Any matzah, it's a shayla, they just leave it into the oven and they burn it. They let it burn. Because the moment that there's a shayla on one matzah, it will make the next matzah that it touches into a shayla of a davar that's chametz touching something that's kosher Pesach. So we have this halacha has still that relevant halacha in the way that we bake matzahs even today. Overlaps are not good. It's really interesting. I didn't think about it, but now that we're talking about it, in the commercial matzah bakeries, the hand shmur matzah bakeries, they put 5-6 matzahs on a pole, and they stick the pole, they lay out the matzahs into the oven, and as soon as the matzahs are done, the shiber lays one matzah on top of the other, and they take out as a whole stack. Occurred to me that could be a shayla. If one of the matzahs for some reason has a shayla on it, then the matzah that's touching becomes potentially chometz also. So I never thought of the shayla. Okay.
Even though it's still in the oven and it's burning?
Yeah, because if it's a chometz, let's say one of the matzahs got folded and it becomes a chametz stick of matzah, then the matzah that it touches becomes chametz stick also. Hopefully, that's not such a problem. I'll tell you an interesting story. What we call the Borough Park Shmur Matzah Bakery used to be known as the Polish Matzah Bakery, because it was owned by the Sad of Nerov, Rav Sekula. So Sechet Sad Levacha. Rav Sekula was a very nervous person. Even before Erev Pesach, he'd be running around the bakery, yelling and making sure that everything so his bakery was on the Lower East Side. And I remember going there once, and then of course he was here in Borough Park, so I had an opportunity to watch him in action. A couple of years ago, I was driving in Borough Park, and I saw Rav Sekula, his son, who was Rosh Yeshiva at that point in Torah B'das, was standing here on the corner of 50th Street and 15th Avenue, catching the bus to go to the Torah B'das. So I picked him up. I picked up Rav Sekula, and I told him, I'm going to Flatbush, I'll give you a ride to the Torah B'das. So he thanked me very much. So we started talking about it. I told him, I remember his father's in the bakery, and how machmer he was, and how nervous he was about every prat of the matzah bakery. He says, let me tell you a story. He tells me the story. He was a bocher still learning in Torah B'das, and he would go after yeshiva, he would go help his father at the Polish Matzah Bakery on the Lower East Side. So he comes in the late afternoon after he left the yeshiva, and his father is furious. He's yelling, he's screaming, hey, they're ruining my matzahs, I'm going to let them know the matzahs, they know what they're doing. I said, Tata, calm down, tell me what's the problem. He says, come in. There was a chabura from Lakewood who was baking matzahs, and he had, there was a younger man who was the one who checked the matzahs after they came out of the oven. He would check to see if there were no shilos on the matzahs. Anyway, this younger man was standing there with his Mishnah Berurah in his hand, and he would pick up a matzah and check the Mishnah Berurah, and then if he saw a problem, he would break off a piece of the matzah, and then, so what was happening was he kept on breaking matzahs. So the Sad of Nerov was yelling, he says, Mach Mekalia the matzahs. He's breaking all the matzahs. I'm not going to left any shleimus from these matzahs. At that moment, the next shift was Moshe Feinstein Zechon Levracha. He came in to bake his matzahs. He was the next chabura. He walked in as they were standing there. This had just happened. He just walked in. Nobody said a word. Right? There's this younger man standing there with his Mishnah Berurah and a matzah in his hand, and the Sad of Nerov and the son are standing there with him. Moshe walks in, and he walks over to the younger man and says, younger man, he says, I have to tell you that all the shadows in the Mishnah Berurah don't apply to our matzahs. Because all the shadows about matzahs that we see are about the matzahs. They used to make them thick, and the people didn't know how to valga them really well. And not only were they thick, but the ovens weren't so hot. And so there was all sorts of shadows that took place in matzahs. It doesn't apply to our matzahs. Our matzahs are known in halacha as rikikin dakin, crackers. Our matzahs have the halacha of rikikin dakin, crackers. And all these shadows and the fuchas and kafulas don't apply to our matzahs. Okay? As Moshe just walked in, so the situation starts this conversation. Okay, so they're standing there, and then Moshe says something else. He says, younger man, he says, I'm about matzahs. If you're baking matzahs, you have to bake not only with Aruch Shulchan Aruch Arachayim, you have to bake matzahs with Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat as well. Why? Because if you break the matzahs, so now it's shvarim. So he can't sell these matzahs, the broken matzahs, for the same price as he sells whole matzahs. The shvarim are sold at a cheaper price. He says, so you're ruining his matzahs. He says, I take my matzahs home and I check them. And if I have a shayla, I'll break off a piece. But that's after I paid for it. It's after I paid for it. It's my matzahs. I can do that. But you're breaking his matzahs. It's choshen mishpat. It's geneva. This is the story by Moshe. He says,
Amazing story.
Real life story. He said, nobody has said a word. Moshe understood. He was that quick. He understood the matzah just looking at it. All right, Bezos, we'll continue tomorrow.
Shkach, Rabbi.
Rebbe, you mentioned the Sad of Nerov. He was, my Shver.
Yes.
He was my wife's grandfather. When they were in Siberia, he hired the Sad of Nerov to be my Shver's Malamed in Siberia.
Wow. Yeah.
He had a bracha at my chasana.
He was a very choshev yid.
Yeah.
Very choshev yid. I remember, watching him at the matzah bakery was an experience. He was running around. It was an experience, but he knew, and that's why everybody who, the Charedim of that time, you're talking about the Lower East Side, everybody would go to him because they knew that his matzahs were without unbelief shum pikvuk, without any problem.
Yeah.
That's what, so I still so I've been buying my father's Chanukah was buying matzahs from him back when I was a little boy, and then after a younger man I would buy getting matzahs from him and sending them to Denver, and then he sold it to Turing the Light Weiss and Farkas, and then he sold it sold them to Chaim Brown. Same matzah bakery. It's the same. It's the exact same matzah. It hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we should be able to Noicham Hashem we should be able to eat our matzahs in Yerushalayim HaKodesh.
Amen.
I still have these dreams of us baking matzahs Erev Pesach.
Should be Makuyim.
Amen.
Get hospital gowns and masks, and I don't think that anybody would let us do it, but especially not our wives. All right, have a wonderful day.
Good day.
Bye,